welcome to this week's edition of the Muslim Street. I am your host, Malik Aziz, founding editor and curator of the Muslim Street. We'll be joined by my co-host, Art Mobley, Darfur 23, also founding member of the National Association for the Association of Black Journalists. He'll be here shortly, piping in. We got a great show today that we're going to be discussing the Obama Museum that sits on the south side of Chicago to a large fanfare. It was opened on June 19th with every Black celebrity that we saw walking through the doors at his White House for 8 years. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Obama administration, particularly Barack Obama, during his 8 years in office and how he negatively impacted the African continent, how he negatively impacted what we term and we're working on as a huge project that was protracted over decades and led by, as of late, by Muammar el-Gaddafi of the al-Jamahiriya in Libya, which, of course, he was assassinated during the Obama administration. We're going to touch on how the Barack Obama administration and literally how the new museum that sits on the south side of Chicago is a monument to the destruction of the United States of Africa. Again, you can find us across all social media. www.themuslimstreet.com is our main website. Please go there and subscribe. In addition to that, you can find us on Facebook, and please like and share our Facebook page. We have about 4,000 or 5,000 members. However, we were on Twitter and we got suspended on Twitter because of a anti-Israel voice, which happens to be a white woman whose platform is the Young Turks, TYT, the Young Turks. Her name is Anna Kasparian. She's been a critical and a refreshing voice from the white left, screaming about the genocide for her people to hear as it relates to the commentation by and the execution of that genocide carried out by the Zionist regime. I simply retweeted one of her posts, and for that I got suspended. The Muslim Street was suspended across Twitter. However, you can still find Anna Kasparian, whose post that I retweeted, the Muslim Street retweeted. You still can find her on the platform with no problem. So, whatever, we didn't need their platforms anyway. The only way that we're going to get our message out unabridged is that we create our own platforms and create our own voices. We had our own platforms and our own voices before any of this social media stuff burst on the scene in 2008, 9, 10, whenever it did. And we were able to organize all across the world. So social media, I'm really not even sure that social media is what it's made up to be. You think that you have access to these thousands of people who are on your platforms, and then you send out a post and only 2 or 3 people are even exposed to that post. I mean, what kind of game that they play, So it's a ruse. It's an illusion. The real organizing is going to be done as it always has been done. Great book on organizing by Dr. Obatushaka, who was a professor emeritus at San Francisco State University, also a leading figure in the development of the National Black United Front while it was under the leadership of Dr. Conrad Worrell, who passed away in 2019 or 1920, I think, 2020. In addition to that, he also authored what I think is the seminal work on the political legacy of Malcolm X, called The Political Legacy of Malcolm X. You should get a copy of that. And that is Dr. Obatushaka. But he also wrote a book on organizing block by block organizing. Try to get that piece if we really want to know how organizing used to work and why that type of organizing, as we build up any kind of serious front to white supremacy, is that type of organizing that we're going to have to get back to. It's no question about it. You can go on social media all you want and get hundreds of thousands of followers because the Zionist platforms will allow you to do that. Then you have to ask yourself the question, why are they allowing you to do that? What are you not saying? So they don't mind the little fussing and, the little BS from Dr. Omar or the Rizza Islams and all this stuff. They know that you're not organizing against white supremacy. They know that you on BS, right? And that you're not serious. Because if you were serious, then they would platform you. It just works that way. It's really easy. Deroba bin Wahad, one of the leading, a Muslim, one of the leading voices that we have left in the African liberation struggle. He was a member of what we know in the early 70s as the Panther 21, who were illegally set up by the vestiges of the counterintelligence program of the FBI, also known as COINTELPRO, and sent away to prison for 18, 19 years illegally. Taking a large part of his youth. He's been part of the Muslim street. He sent me a message earlier, and the reason I want to bring up Deroba, and he said in preface that Africans, meaning blacks in America, are not ready or getting ready for prime time white supremacy. You thought it was here with that Donald Trump stuff? Nah. You thought it was here 20, 30 years ago with that Randy Weaver stuff and the militias? Nah. No. Reason number one, that we have to get back to grassroots organizing. And the social media stuff where everybody wants to be, have their own little TV show. You want to be Arsenio Hall and it's not going to work. We have to organize on the ground if we are going to affect the masses of Black people, the real grassroots. I'm talking about Ray now. All right. They're not on social media. The people that we need to affect, we have to touch. The people that we need to touch, we have to knock on their door. Right. The people that we need to touch, we have to be in touch with what the people want. How do you know what the people want? And you're on Facebook, making posts all day and think that, and all you're doing it for is to see how many people hit the like button. That's where your feelings are. Anyway, enough about that. We're produced out of Ghana, Accra, Ghana, in fact, by the LanceScurv Show. You can find him at LanceScurv.com and, of course, across YouTube at LanceScurv. And Lance knows a little bit about being shadow banned. He used to have hundreds of thousands of followers just a few years ago on his platform, and then something went down, right? And we'll have Lance on to talk a little bit about what went down that caused him to be banned, shadow banned, and scaled back. So today, again, we'll be joined by my co-host, Art Mobley. Art's out of Phoenix, Arizona, by way of Detroit, Michigan, and myself. If you want to know where I am, I'm somewhere in Florida. But in addition to that, I'm originally from Chicago. And I would tell you that Chicago, when I was coming up in Chicago, was one of those serious groundswells for the African liberation struggle. There was debate, rigorous debate going on a consistent basis, week in and week out, on college campuses all across the city. There were scholars who came up during the cultural nationalist movement in the late 60s, early 70s, who had tenure on or seeking tenure on college campuses. So it wasn't out of the ordinary for you to have a revolutionary literally teaching your history class. Okay. teaching your sociology or racism class in the person of Dr. Iva Carruthers. Go look her up, right? So people like I mentioned Dr. Conrad Worrell on my campus, Dr. Anderson Thompson, African Community of Chicago on my campus, Dr. William Speller on my campus, Dr. Bernard Powers, one of the leading Black historians as relates to Black American history, meaning in the context of the last 400 years in this country. One of my professors, and I would tell you that it was during a period where you had to come to class prepared to not only engage your peers but also engage the professors in debate, right? So we have to get back to that. The Puerto Rican nationalist and revolutionary movement, FALN, was housed on my campus. Dr. Jose Lopez, go look him up. One of the leading voices around the Puerto Rican liberation struggle. Oh, and you thought the Puerto Ricans in this country, New York and Chicago, which have the largest populations of Puerto Ricans, you thought that they were going to settle for the colonization of their land by the United States? No. There's literally a whole movement that was put down in the 1970s, the FALN, by the same organization and state-sponsored entity that put down the Black Panthers, the same that put down the Black Liberation Army, the BLA that we talked about with Assata Shakur and Sundiata Kohli and Jalil Muta King and Dorobin Wahat. Those were our soldiers that they sent to jail, right? So this attack on the Puerto Rican liberation movement, the independence movement, was also attacked with the same entity attacked the Black liberation struggle, and we were defeated by that entity in the 1970s in the Black Power movement. And in my estimation, there have been attempts to regroup, and we're just not there yet, right? But we'll get there, inshallah. Now, let's get to the topic at hand before Art Mobley joins us on the Muslim Street, and that is the Barack Obama's new museum, which we claim for this subject today is a monument that celebrates the death and demise of the United States of Africa. It's either this or it's that. Did Barack Obama's 8 years in office serve the independence of African people here and throughout the world? You know what the answer is. I don't need to tell you that. You can figure that out, right? If the answer is to the negative, then what did his administration serve? Well, let's look at it. Let's look at it critically and not emotionally, because I don't care about how you feel. Really don't. History doesn't care about how you feel. History only records facts. It only records data. All right. So let's look at it critically. If it did not serve, his administration for 8 years did not serve from 2008 until no good Donald Trump came to office. If it did not serve African people in the United States and the African diaspora, who did it serve? And what the hell was going on? Well, it served the white power structure. That's what he was in office for, as a continuation of the white power pendulum. And that did not shift, not one bit during 8 years, right? So his policies were the policies that were an extension of the George Bush administration 8 years before him. It was an extension of the 8 years of the Clinton administration before him. Their policies are protracted. Their policy toward Israel didn't change. Therefore, their policies toward the liberation of Palestinians did not change. Right? See how that works? If George Bush, as an extension of the Clinton administration, began to expand the military occupation of the African continent under the theme AFRICOM, then that baton in 2008 was handed over, in 2009 was handed over to Barack Obama. And the question that you should be asking is not how pretty that museum looks on the south side of Chicago, but the question that you should be asking is, did his administration aid and abet the African diaspora? Did it expand George's, in an aggressive way, George Bush's initiative of AFRICOM and the military occupation of the African continent in order to control its resources moving forward for who? The white supremacist, white power construct. This is the way this works. Either you're fighting for us or you're fighting for them. There's no in between. So, and we want to welcome Art Mobley to the show. Art, I've done quite an introduction on yourself. I set up the topic, and you can kind of jump in as you feel me. I've known you long enough where, if I was playing shortstop, put your best athlete at shortstop, by the way. There's no question about that. If I'm playing shortstop, then you playing second base. I don't need to tell you the ground ball comes to me, that we need to turn a double play, and you know where to run. You're going to run right over second base, and we're going to turn that into a century ball. So that's the way that works. So
I used to play second base.
See there? Look at that. Man.
How did you know?
I was a better baseball player than a football player, and I was a good football player. I mean, I won a scholarship to no good Ronald Reagan's alma mater, Eureka College, where he played football at, and I was the first Black starting quarterback in Eureka history. I started as a freshman, and I know. I've been in some racist environments, but that was a good. I left that campus after my freshman year when classes were over with, beginning of May, and I swear, at 18 years old, I said these words: "I'll never come back down here again in my life." And to this point, I've never returned to that campus, even though I'm on the alumni email list. And I was like, nah.
I'm sure it still reeks of Ronald Reagan, so probably not a good place to be anyway. So,
yeah.
So what have we been talking about today? You've been talking about Obama, I presume.
Yeah, so we're talking about and Lance, if you could put the picture of the Obama Museum, which opened up Art June 19th to a lot of fanfare. All the celebrities were there, all the singers, all the athletes, all the entertainers, the talk show hosts. The black petty bourgeoisie was well represented.
That is a strange looking building. But,
yeah. And it sits on
an elevator shaft without the rest of the building built around it.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And just for the people to know, I'm from Chicago, so I can kind of set this scene up. And Lance, if you can put that other picture. No, leave that one up, because behind there, you see these tall buildings.
Yeah.
Now, if that museum was built 20 years ago, it would be surrounded by projects. One of the largest projects in the country set there. It was called Stateway Gardens.
Oh, okay. That's where Stateway
Gardens was. Somewhere around 50, 60,000 black people. The place was so...
still got that prison feel in the area, I guess.
It was a prison. It literally was a prison, because if you walk inside of a prison, you got the high rise where the dormitories where the prisoners are, and then outside you have gates, right?
Yeah.
Literally like gates, and this is the way that place was set up. On the bottom of it, to further my argument that this was a prison, and I said 50,000 black people. Go check the numbers on that. I'm not lying to you. They literally had a office for the Chicago Police Department inside of Stateway Gardens at the bottom. And they wouldn't even,
Wow.
It literally was a prison.
Wow.
And I can remember, just to anecdotally make a point, in 1985, I think it was beginning of the summer of 1985, there was a gang war going on inside of Stateway Gardens between the quads. So you can imagine, you got 50. The kids couldn't even go out and play. Okay. Luckily, school was out because they wouldn't even been able to go to school because you got a sniper going back and forth. So here's what happened. One Saturday morning in June, where on the south side of Chicago, the Fruit of Islam, then headed nationally by Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Go look him up. That's that good-looking bald head brother that didn't take no stuff. He was a true revolutionary who understood the points I was making earlier in the discussion, Art, about how we're going to have to get back to block organizing, all right, in order to be effective.
It's a progression.
Exactly. So what Dr. Khalid Muhammad did, he took nearly 300 members of the Fruit of Islam down to the Stateway Gardens in the midst of this gang sniping warfare at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. He was strategic about it because he knew the Negroes wasn't up, right? And he literally took them down there in the middle of that quad where the gang war was going on. And he took his men through a dismounted drill. And by the time they were finished with the dismounted drill, 20 minutes later, the entire quad and those gates that were surrounding that apartment, all of the mothers and all of the kids, all of the aunties and the uncles and the granddaddies, all of them came out. Thousands, right? And then he ordered the men to go and knock on each and every one of those doors and introduce yourself. They left there, the Fruit of Islam and Dr. Khalid Muhammad, literally with 30 to 50 new recruits. That's block by block organizing, where you're changing the dynamics of a situation. And then later he followed up with a week or two later, he followed up with a what he called a men's meeting, where he had all of the major street.
Yeah. With all of these.
Let me finish. He had all of the major street organizations on the South Side, and an all-day Saturday meeting. The El Rukins, the Gangster Disciples, the Vice Lords, etc., the Mickey Cobras, all of them for a whole day, organizing a truce that would be able to be held together for the rest of that summer. So go ahead, Art.
Yeah, I was going to say, with all of the leadership elements that we have in Chicago, including Obama and Jesse Jackson and the family there, and a lot of the other people going back to Fred Hampton and Khalid and the Nation of Islam virtually being headquartered there. Why is Chicago such a trouble spot, a difficult spot for us to organize, particularly Black men, to do things that support the peace that we need in communities that would be a model for the entire country and even the world in Black communities?
Yeah, so that was originally not the case. Something happened 20 years ago that created what we see now. And it kind of started a little bit before that, but what happened 20 years ago, that these projects that we're talking about, Ida B. Wells and the Henry Horner homes on the West Side,
Lafayette in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened? These large amounts of Black people and populations were housed inside of these projects, and these projects were sitting on the best property. Cabrini Greens, 800 North, only walking distance from downtown. They were sitting on the best property, Art, in Chicago, in the city of Chicago. The El Rukins headquarters is walking distance from 31st Street Beach, right? So what happened is Whitey said, and at the time, Mayor Richard Daley, the younger Richard Daley's father died back in the 1970s. 1977.
Did you just say Whitey? You
Yes.
just say what?
Well, I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready
You
to tell you what
synthesize all of white people into one
Yes.
person, right? Okay. All
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to make sure we understand where we're at.
Because why do you understand something that we don't understand? All right. That everything they do pushes forward the agenda of the white power structure.
Yeah.
Just think if we did that.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
All
We
right.
can't
So
do it.
anyway, so what happened in Chicago, and I'm sure it happened in other places, but particularly Chicago is unique because Stateway Garden, Henry Horner Homes, Cabrini Green, etc., all set on prime property that white people who had dispersed 40 years ago to the suburbs, but were working downtown, said, we're tired of this commute. We're tired of these 2-hour train rides. And when it snows, driving into the city and paying $30, $40 a day to park. They said, we want to come back to the city, right? So the regentrification process started. And under Richard Daley, Mayor Daley, in the early 2000s, he very sinisterly created a plan to move the blacks out of Chicago. Now, so this is critical. I'm talking 2003, 2004. Cabrini Green, we use that as an example, and everybody know what Cabrini Greens is.
Good times.
Where, the good times, comes on when you see all of right. Go to Cooley High, you see the row houses where Preach lived. That's where I was born, and on Mohawk, on the row houses, Cabrini Green. Now check this out. So he goes into he's going to use Cabrini Green in 2003, 2004 as a case study, a case example. He goes down there himself and he tells the residents, the black residents of one of the worst projects in the history of projects, let alone in the city of Chicago. And he tells them that what we're going to do is that we're going to give you vouchers, thousands of vouchers. And we're going to give you these vouchers where you can move outside of the city until we tear this place down. And then we're going to rebuild it and make it a mixed income community. And then you can come back. Okay. Well, two problems with that. They sent them down 150, 200 miles to the south, 200 miles to the north, 200 miles to the west. They're not coming back. They sent them to these small towns like Danville.
It was a trick.
Campaign. Tricked them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing they did was they included in the contract, and there was a contract, there's a documentary that you can find on Netflix on this, there was some fine print. And the fine print said, if you have someone in your family who committed a crime, didn't even say felony or misdemeanor, who committed a crime, then you can't come back.
Sure. This just building stuff. But I mean, is that why we have such a problem with African American men and the inability to really make a cohesive community?
So here's the problem. Here's the problem, right? So in this, and remember now, I stated that this is going on all over the city. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of thousands of black people being relocated for white gentrification. Sure. Well, the ones that are being relocated, I'm not going to say all, but a large amount of them were part of these street organizations, right? Yeah. So now these small towns who don't have the infrastructure to even handle these street organizations are now in play. And then the ones who are left in the city are now fragmented. Okay. Yeah. You had Larry Hoover, who controlled the Gangster Disciples on the south side of Chicago. Some say at the height that army was about 50,000 soldiers. Lock him up in jail and don't let him out. If you're not, so now you got this fragmented. You fragmented his organization where you had a centralized organization, centralized leadership into many, and they ain't taking orders, right? They're covering their own turf now, right? And then of course, here come the drugs. Here come the weapons. How did the weapons get into the south side and west side of Chicago? AK-47s coming in on trains from Mexico under El Chapo, who was planted there by the CIA. The police department, Chicago Police Department, which is an Irish gang, has always been holding cover, literally standing post for the trains that are coming in and bringing the guns into the black community. And I'm not talking about pea shooters.
They did the same thing in LA. They just
dropped.
They dropped boxcars of weapons off in LA within walking distance from Watts, so that they would have access to them. So the young men would find them and go, "Oh wow, this is a train. Let's break in." And oh wow, it's full of guns. Deliberate efforts to do that. But I'm saying we had agendas and opportunities to create peaceful adjustments in LA and even New York and Detroit, but Chicago just seemed to be this really difficult nut to crack, despite all of this Black leadership that we had congregated in Chicago. And I'm just trying to get a better idea in a snapshot. What is the challenge with Chicago? Why is Chicago so hard?
Yeah. So the challenge are the guns that are coming in on the trains being imported, the drugs, and also when we talk about the leadership that was there, yes, you had the headquarters of Nation of Islam, Minister Louis Farrakhan. You had the headquarters of Operation Push, Rainbow Coalition, with the Reverend Jesse Jackson was there. You had the headquarters of the National Black United Front under Dr. Conrad Worrell from 1980 for nearly 40 years. You had the headquarters of the African community in Chicago with Dr. Anderson Thompson, Institute of Education with Hakeem Manabuti, some of the leading voices. What we, and I'm going to say this as a problem, in Chicago, there is a over plethora of churches in the Black community. But the churches, with the exception of some of the large ones, they're not doing any organizing on the street. They're there for the Black petty bourgeoisie.
And that's a universal problem in Black communities all across the country. We got a lot of churches, and
Chicago took it a whole nother level. And I give you a real prime example on Racine, which is a two-way street, one going north, the other going south, one lane going north and south. 87th Street to 71st Street. That's 16 blocks, right? Now, normally you would say on that one street, and it's not even a highway, it's just a two-lane street. Normally you say, 16 blocks, maybe you should have 7, maybe 8 churches, okay? Black folks kind of overdo it. You want to know how many churches, and I counted them personally? There were over 60 churches on 16 blocks. On some of the blocks, there was a church next to a church next to a church, and then a liquor store anchoring the block. Across the street, 3 more churches. All kind of churches. All kind of churches, man.
Those are businesses. They're businesses, and people who run those churches are running businesses. That's business. Sometimes that's the only business people have in our community. So, but I'm saying I've got a block that was in my neighborhood, 3 corners. 3 churches on 4 corners. We had 3 churches. So I understand that the whole problem. But I'm still trying to get at why Chicago has such a problem of bringing, like you cannot seem to put a dent in the shootings and the killings that go on in Chicago, in the neighborhoods, week in and week out. You can't put a dent in it. You can't slow it down.
Well, here's where propaganda and lies move forward. The truth of the matter is, and I've done the study and I've done the research on this. Decade over decade, and I'll skip a decade over decade. If we look at the homicide numbers, and as I prepare for my next book that's coming out called the 1970s, the last safe place in Black America, in my research, Art, in 1973, there were nearly 1,200 homicides in Chicago. Skip a decade to 1993, we had the crack has now entered Chicago. It was kept out during the early and mid parts of the 1980s because the heroin trade. So now crack shows up in 1993. So that's 20 years 20 years over and over, the homicide rate hovering again at around 1,200 souls.
Yeah.
Now, here's what's critical. In 2003, 10 years later, we then see this the number kind of staying the same, but then something happens.
It plateau. Okay.
10 years later, 2013, anybody can go check the numbers on this. Mm-hmm. We see that number around 500 to 600. Now, one way to look at that is that
it dropped.
It dropped.
Okay.
But the propaganda was, oh, here come Spike Lee calling Chicago Chirac as he does his little Netflix stuff. And then, you got the Wire out in Baltimore. They got their version in Chicago called The Shot. And they get bang, 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 bang. I mean, this propaganda. So a friend of mine that I work with down, he said, man, I saw The Shot last night, man. Did you see it? Is it a real depiction of Chicago? I said, no, it's not. It's horse shit.
Well, I was just there 2 years ago. And, I've been working on a couple of businesses there in Chicago, and it just seems like it is a really difficult challenge. And again, one of our listeners and callers just said that the young people in Chicago are very individualistic. They're very strong. They're warriors, and they don't want to hear the nonsense that older people are discussing. Don't want to be oppressed. They want to earn their own money. Okay, so that I'm sure that's part of the obstinance is part of something going on, but I'm just trying to get at the question.
Well, when he said Chicago, when he said they're warriors, I can agree with that. The rest of the stuff he's saying, I know what he's talking about. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I'm born and bred in Chicago. Right?
Yeah, I know you were. And, right. Again, that's why I'm asking you. I think if anybody knows, you got a better handle on it than most.
To our subject matter, and that is Barack Obama, who shows up in Chicago in the late 1980s, saying that I guess the narrative later he created when he ran for a state rep and then state senator and then congressman and then senator and then president, the narrative that he put together with his white Zionist handlers that he was a community organizer, particularly in another large project which houses over 30,000 Black people called Argyle Gardens. Well, I have to tell you, I've taken soldiers over in Argyle Gardens to organize door to door as late as the early late 80s, 1989, 1990, 1991. And perfectly honest with you, we had to be out of there before the sunset. And we had cover. And that cover were we are Muslims, right? Yeah. Now, for Barack Obama and his handlers to put together a narrative that he was a community organizer in Argyle Gardens is an absolute lie. Okay? What do you mean a community organizer? First of all, what are you talking about?
Well, nobody took that serious anyway.
I mean, like real live killers. And I've been in situations where, here's a story for you. I took 3 young brothers with me at 3:00 in the afternoon in the summer over to Argyle Gardens. 30,000 Black people. One of the most serious projects, gangster disciple territory in Chicago. Now, I've known people who've been shot and killed and left over in ditches in this place personally, right? Now, we're over there door to door organizing. And we happened, Art, to turn down one of those streets where you got 20 brothers sitting on the back of a car with the trunk open, and we can't turn around. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we got to walk right into this situation. Yep. And I told them, brothers, do not say a word. One man doing the talking. So I would go right into these brothers, and they long-faced it. They got guns. One of them had his hand on a baseball bat. And they want to know what the F we doing over here. Well, it's clear what we're doing over here. So I figured out of these 20 some odd brothers who was the leader, right? Who's the alpha. And I figured that out because I know the streets. I don't even recognize anyone else, I go right to him and I start talking to him. How you doing, brother? We're from Nation of Islam, the Fruit of Islam, under the guidance of Minister Louis Farrakhan. We want to give you a gift of the Final Call newspaper. We're here for the liberation of our people. All right? And now what he gonna say, bro? Now, I've already let him know that we ain't here by ourselves. We got soldiers all over the city, and if we need to be, they will be over here, right?
Yeah.
So, needless to say, we're able to lower the temperature very quickly.
Well, absolutely. I've always seen the Nation of Islam be able to do that.
Leave some newspapers, and then we ran into an old soldier on the way out who had been soldiering way back in the Malcolm X days. And he was running an ice cream truck. He called me over to the ice cream truck and he said, Brother Malik, when that sun set, make sure y'all out of here. That's Chicago, bro.
Yeah, that's serious, but it's very unique. But Chicago is different than any other city in the country for that reason. Nobody.
Where Barack Obama said he was a community organizer.
Well, we knew that was BS. How you gonna look at Barack Obama? He ain't no community organizing nowhere where there's meaningful Black people doing what they do. Come on, man.
I just described to you and the listening audience a real live situation that could have went left. Yeah. And you think Barack Obama is going to show up in the late 1980s? He don't even know this.
Right.
And we wouldn't know no government salary. Yeah, a grant or whatever office he had, wherever. But
certainly we understand that Obama was never meant to be what he tried to tout himself as. And he was elected president. He made some definite structural moves to get to occupy those offices. Those things he was selected for that reason. And, it's history now. Now you got to dedicate your library in Chicago and, you got a legacy like Reagan or Nixon or anyone else, but it doesn't mean anything more than those legacies meant in their various communities, whether it's San Clemente or it's, Ronald and Reagan in Missouri or wherever the heck he's came from and wherever his library is. It's meaningless to Black people. It's meaningless to us because it never was meant to uplift or change our condition at all. And that was why I was questioning about Chicago, how we can change the conditions of Black people. Because if we can change Black people's condition in Chicago, we can change Black people's conditions everywhere and anywhere, But, it's a hard thing to do in America within this culture when we are the recipients of the nasty end of a continuous war. And it's a war on us. Yeah. And so we have to deal with it.
Art that I'd like to ask your input on is Larry Hoover. One of the founding members of the Gangster Disciples on the South Side of Chicago, who since the 1980s has been in prison. There's a petition. I think Trump pardoned him. The governor Pritzker, who will be running for president, by the way, in 2028, needs to complete that. One of the reasons why they do not want Larry Hoover back on the street, because he could consolidate the soldiers on the street, particularly on the south side of Chicago, whereas when they wouldn't let him out, he politicized them back in the late 80s, early 90s, and he had them registering to vote. He had them doing true community organizing work, and then they pulled a lever down on him, and he's been in prison ever since. They don't want him out because Larry Hoover could consolidate all of these factions that are at war with each other over drug turf.
For that reason alone, heavy pressure should be put on the family of Jesse Jackson, Barack Obama, anyone in Chicago the pressure should be put on for them to facilitate getting Larry Hoover out if he could have that kind of impact and he could be that dynamic. Mr. Farrakhan, everybody should be pushing to get that man out of prison at this. He served enough time and he could come out tomorrow. If he could solve the Black community's problems at that deeper level, he should be given an immediate pass out of jail and let out of jail.
In the 90s and the early 2000s, there was a heavy pressure put on by the Black leadership core, both on the Black radical traditional side with people like Minister Farrakhan, Dr. Worrell, and others, and also with Reverend Jackson and on the
to free Larry Hoover,
to free Larry Hoover. I mean, they were working hard on this, but it's in the hands of the white governor, Mr. Pritzker, who's a Zionist and who will also be running for president. Do you think he literally holds the pen that all he has to do is sign it because it's already been pardoned from the federal perspective by Donald Trump months ago? He literally holds the pen for Larry Hoover to get out of jail.
If the Black community does not have leverage against Pritzker at this point, at this juncture right now, today,
they don't.
Well, they do. They actually do. If they don't use it, I'm sad that Black people aren't taking this opportunity to get some results, and it could include getting Hoover out of jail.
Well, so Pritzker, who is a rich Zionist, and the governor who's running for president in 2028, he's looking at this politically. He's saying, when's the last time Illinois voted Republican? Never. So that right there neutralizes every Black person in the city of Chicago. Democrat. They're going to vote for him. He's going to get those electoral votes if he has.
If Larry Hoover's
key national movement, do we need to turn this into a national movement in order to free Larry Hoover? I think it's a better strategy. But as far as the local strategy,
I think it definitely could be handled locally if it is as meaningful as you say it is. They really should be pushing locally. That's where it's going to begin. Of course, all politics are local.
Barack Obama could have did this.
He still can. He can do that right now. We need to start putting that pressure. We can start right off the Muslim street. Free Larry Hoover. Free Larry Hoover.
Now let's get back to as we the last 10 minutes or so of the show. I'd like to get your observation on the subject matter that we came here to talk about, and that was the impact that the Barack Obama administration had on the defeat and the demise of the United States of Africa. And I'll point you to this. In 2011, two major things happened. One was the Barack Obama in his presidency oversaw a protracted political philosophy and implementation that started during the Clinton administration, was handed off to the Bush administration, and he completed it. And that was the split up of the Sudan, which now, as we warned, the Darfur 23 as early as 2007, that if the Sudan is split into two, it will be a civil war in the South. Now we have not only a civil war in the South, there's also a civil war in the North. Okay.
Well, that was the goal.
Yes. Yeah. And then also Barack Obama in 2011 set over something else. And that was the overthrow of the government of Muammar Gaddafi and the El Jamahiriya, and his assassination, which happened later that fall. So with the death and the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, that took the petrodollars out of the funding of what we know as the United States of Africa. Art, can you set up for the listening audience the United States of Africa and what it was going to mean to the Pan-African movement?
Well, 2 years before the death of Brother Muammar Gaddafi, he was the president of the African Union at that time. Mandela, Mugabe, and Gaddafi got together and they came up with an idea and a plan to start an African dollar. Gaddafi's dream was also to move that into facilitation by creating it as a petrodollar as well. It was called the African dinar. It was going to be financed with South African and Zimbabwean gold and the oil from Benghazi there in Libya. If the Europeans, the Italians, the French, the British wanted to continue to purchase oil from Libya, they were going to be required to do so with and through the African dinar. So these coins were in development at the time Libya was ransacked. That is why Libya was attacked. Yes, it was certainly a mission that was carried out by Barack Obama, but the real strings behind that whole move was a Zionization of the whole process that was facilitated primarily from the Zionist movement in both Israel and in Washington. So that's good.
Art, you hit on it. You closed on you landed this whole topic on a very excellent point that I want your observation on again, a deeper observation. The Black liberation struggle, the African liberation struggle in the United States was made aware through the Balfour 23 in 2007 on a return from a massive fact-finding mission that lasted over 3 weeks of what you just said. About the Zionization. It was clear that His Excellency Omar Hassan al-Bashir and the Sudanese government, which was controlled out of Khartoum in the north, right on the banks of the Nile River, Black folks, were subjects of a large and extensive Zionist propaganda campaign coming from the West. And the African liberation struggle and its leadership rejected the Balfour 23's analysis that you just gave. And we now know that this is very easy now. I mean, it's been in black and white. White power structure even came out earlier. Some of their thinkers on the white left and said the same thing that you said, that it was clear that Sudan did not like Israel. They couldn't even, an Israeli citizen couldn't even get a visa to come into Israel. Into the Sudan in 2007. Okay, so so your point and landing it there. My question to you is, why was it so widely rejected by the Black liberation struggle here? Why? And I got names. I mean, I can call them out.
Yeah, well, the Zionization, and that's a word that probably don't exist except for in my definition that I just came up with a couple of weeks ago. To me, it's the process of becoming systematically more brutal through institutional national systems of control and punishment. That's what I call Zionization. That is a effort that is spreading around the world, out of Gaza and in other places. But why it wasn't embraced, or why the idea of the understanding of what was going on in Africa wasn't embraced by the wider Pan-African movement or the Black movement in this country, is just a matter of education. I just think that that education, those points need to be driven home more directly, or there are going to be some people who are going to intentionally reject these things. They're going to stand in opposition to them because that's not their assignment. Their assignment is to disrupt, and their assignment is to deny. So we're going to have that problem anyway. But
so the Pan-African movement in the United States and their leadership rejected the research and the fact-finding mission by the Balfour 23. Mm-hmm. The Black petty bourgeoisie were buying into the Western propaganda, which I didn't expect that the Black liberation struggle would do that. But the propaganda theme pushed by the Zionist media and Western propaganda was that Arabs in Sudan were killing Black Africans and genociding them to the tune of 400,000 in Darfur. All lies, right? Personally, was there for 3 weeks doing the whole thing. Now, here's the point I want to make about the propaganda. And you listen to the Muslim Street. You can find us again at www.themuslimstreet.com. Go there and like and subscribe. Now, here's my question, Art, as we land this last 5 minutes of the show today. And that is Susan Rice, who was ambassador to the UN under the Obama administration when this went down. Literally went on national TV. Susan Rice, a black woman. And she said that Muammar Gaddafi don't like black people.
Yeah, exactly. And so, in the meantime, Muammar Gaddafi was inviting black people back into the Sahara Desert in droves to be not only a part of the culture that they were pushed out of by Arabs and those people who were coming from Europe trying to make the Mediterranean and the whole northern coast of Africa their extension of what they were doing out of Europe, and trying to whitenize as much of the northern part of Africa as possible. But
Rice was talking about black people in America.
Yeah.
That Gaddafi didn't like black people. And they were literally like putting this garbage out under Obama's administration, who 2 years prior at the UN and in New York has shook hands with Muammar Gaddafi. Literally, Muammar Gaddafi, being again from Chicago, in 1972, gave a multi-million-dollar interest-free loan to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to build what is now the largest mosque on the south side of Chicago. Make that make sense. Black people, stop buying this old BS that people tell us.
Well, just because people say it don't mean we're gonna accept it, and don't mean we're listening to it, But they can't stop her from saying it. That's the policy. This is the thing that they want to do. They want to divide and conquer, and they'll do that all day long, and they'll continue to do that. So we just need to. If
I saw Susan Rice, I once said to myself during that time period, about 2011, if I saw Susan Rice in aisle 4 at the grocery store, and I'm pushing my basket, and I see her before she sees me, bro, I ain't coming down that aisle. These people are assassins, which is the term and label that Minister Farrakhan gave to Barack Obama after he ordered the hit on Muammar Gaddafi, and literally as a result ended the United States of Africa.
Well, I thought that was more of a Hillary Clinton and a Bibi Netanyahu move than it was for Obama. I give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a president. He's a foot soldier.
He was the president, bro.
He's a pawn. He's still a pawn. He's still a pawn, and there's nothing that he could do other than to pay lip service to it, But he couldn't do anything tangibly about it. That cake was baked, brother, when he got to the office. And I'm not giving him a pass. Don't get me wrong. You still have the power of and your ability to defy what's going on and say, no, I'm not going to do that. You might end up like the last president who thought he was President Kennedy, and that comes with the office. Like Minister Farrakhan said, these people are assassins, and that's what they do best, is to kill. So we just need to understand that and act accordingly. So as we make our movement, we regenerate our movement to liberate ourselves in this country and liberate Africa and to move in that direction. Just understand, we need to protect our flanks, our backs, and we need to certainly build in the processes so that these things don't happen. We don't lose the Larry Hoovers and the Malik Azizes and the people that we need in order to get to where we want to go the quickest. It's the quickest way to one straight line. That's it, point to point.
And we're down to the last 30 seconds as Lance brings in the music. Have you seen Barack Obama lately? I mean, he looks old, bro. Do you know he's younger than I am?
Hey, all presidents age, but I mean, he's been out of office for a while. Yeah, I know he's younger than you. Yeah.
He's do a facial or something.
Hey, man.
I don't know. what?
If you're worried about your kids and your wife and you're worried about, people bothering him, he got more death threats than every other president that's ever held that office combined. Barack Obama had more death threats than
his
all
net worth
presidents combined.
in excess of $80 million. His net worth is in excess of $80 million.
Well, that's paltry compared to some of the other presidents. So,
no. Biden around 50. The Clintons, because they ripped off Haiti, they're somewhere around 200 million.
Yeah, well, most of them have upwards of that. Look at Donald Trump. He's at $9 billion when he came in office and counting. So it is every senator, every representative is a millionaire.
Trump done ripped off the American people to the tune of the next, 10 generations. He's such a crook.
His kids are still stealing. They stopped stealing since they got in the building. They probably picking up cans and taking cups and everything. Stuffing them in the bag.
When he met him, he was broke. And he worth $2 billion.
I'm gonna rob y'all blind. Okay, man. Well, listen, I know.
You listen to the Muslim Street. We'll see you next week. Again, www.muslimstreet.com. I am Malik Aziz with my co-host Art Mobley. Thanks, Art, for joining us here for another engaging hour.
Happy Father's Day to those celebrating such things.
Happy Father's Day to everybody, and mashallah. We'll see you next week. I'm like.